We turn to some politics now, and a Donald Trump pollster is reportedly telling Republican donors that former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley has surged in Iowa following the first GOP primary debate. The polling memo, which was obtained by Axios, also noted that Haley and Vivek Ramaswamy are allied with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis in New Hampshire. According to Axios, the memo reflects that Trump's team's emphasis on DeSantis' early struggles and how the campaign is trying to shift the primary narrative from Trump versus DeSantis to Trump versus everyone else. Joining us now, the co-founder of Axios, Mike Allen. Mike, great to see you this morning.
Morning,
so let's talk a little bit about the memo and the reasons behind it. I think we can agree that some of this motivation is Trump team trying to put DeSantis in his place. But I think Nikki Haley did impress a lot of people that night. Republicans you're speaking to, why do they think she is? What about what she did has caused the surge?
Yeah, Jonathan, I think that's a very smart point that there is a lot of Nikki Haley reality that's behind this memo. I'm hearing it from both coasts and both parties. What's behind it is she had an answer on abortion that a lot of Republicans said, that's a practical answer that is better than what the party's been saying a lot of times on that. And so I'm hearing that there's a lot of Republican donors who are offering to hold events for her. And when you're in a candidate in a crowded field this far out, there's no call you'd rather get than someone from a donor, someone with a lot of money and or a lot of friends. And funnily enough, a lot of people with a lot of money have a lot of friends who want to do an event from you. And then, Jonathan, from the other party, from Democrats, I'm hearing, I know you're hearing the same thing too, that they say if somehow Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor, former ambassador to the UN, if she could get past Trump, if she somehow became the Republican nominee, and there's no numerical way to see how that happens now, but if that happens, that she could be a very strong opponent for Biden. So there's Democrats who say, I would not want President Biden to have to face Ambassador Haley in a general. Again, buzz conversation that you'd love to hear when you're trying to break out. The fact that these Trump aides, this Trump pollster, Tony Fabrizio, saying she's rising in Iowa, New Hampshire, reflects kick the Florida governor a little bit. And here's the reality they're seeing on the ground also about Nikki Haley.
Yeah, and I think it's a good point that Haley profiles as someone who would be a good general election candidate. But let's be real, as you just noted, Haley is still 40-plus points behind Donald Trump. They all are. So let's talk about that right now. I mean, we saw poll numbers move a little bit after that first debate. And Trump in some states even lost a couple of points, but he's still so far ahead. What's the Trump team's thinking right now? Is that going to change their strategy at all about how they approach the next handful of weeks, including the next couple of debates?
As you know, the Trump team has been aggressive from day zero. Long before some of these candidates were any numerical threat, before they were showing up on polls, you saw the Trump team hitting them. All of these candidates, Jonathan, they're running to be the person standing if, for whatever reason, Donald Trump is hit by lightning. Something, we've talked about it for months, still true, something dramatic would have to happen to change for Donald Trump to not be the nominee. But what has been true about every single year you and I have been covering is something dramatic happening. And that's what you're counting on if you're the Florida governor, if you're Nikki Haley, if you're Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. You just want to be there, ready, be strong, have money, have an organization if there's suddenly an opening.
Yeah, and certainly there are some big events on the horizon, including a number of court dates for Trump. But he's maintaining an aggressive campaign schedule. He's just noted a rally in South Dakota coming up. And I'll note the governor of South Dakota, someone who would, I think, be on his vice presidential shortlist. But let's talk about one of the other candidates that you just mentioned, because Axios has got some exclusive reporting about GOP donors expressing concerns about one candidate, Tim Scott's personal life, and how that may impact his electoral chances. Tell us.
Yeah, Jonathan, this is fascinating. Behind the scenes Republican conversation about Senator Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina, who's one of those strong candidates vying to be a Trump alternative. Axios' Alex Thompson picking up exclusively on the fact that donors are very concerned about the fact that Senator Scott is 57 and single. They're saying, is there something we should know? The fact that he is a bachelor, and America hasn't had a bachelor president in more than a century, they're concerned that if they go all in on him, then in a very conservative party, that could suddenly be an issue. Interestingly enough, something that Alex picked up on his very extensive conversations with top Republican officials is that because the answers so far about this from Senator Scott and from the campaign have been vague. What has that done? It's been just like in real life. It's made everyone just more curious about it. Axios is able to report this morning the Scott campaign now saying that Senator Scott will address this issue in the next couple weeks.
All right, well, we'll certainly look for that. It's also Scott, another one who is considered on a potential Trump VP shortlist, and it's notable that he has not trained any fire on the Republican frontrunner, perhaps to that effect. And of course, one other we should mention, of course, Governor DeSantis of Florida stepped away from the campaign trail for a few days to focus on his state's recovery from the storm, and at least for the time being, disaster relief is one place where, at least temporarily, partisan politics set aside. So that's good to see. Co-founder of Axios, Mike Allen, thank you for being with us this morning, and thanks to all of you.